Initial access continues to move away from just getting into a system and more toward finding what already spreads, what already gets trusted, and what has reach. And this week, you can see that shift from a few different angles. A leaked AI tool spread across GitHub almost instantly. That attention got turned into malware through fake repos and developer lures. And at the network layer, Russian operators hijacked routers to harvest credentials without ever touching the endpoint. And on the impact side, ransomware crews are moving from access to encryption in under an hour, while AI is now finding and exploiting vulnerabilities at a speed that used to take entire teams. None of that really looks like the old model of breaking in. It looks more like trust being inherited, distributed, and then exploited at machine speed. I'm Sean McMillan, Community Manager here at Bishop Fox, and this week I'm joined by Dylan Sparks, Senior Operator 1, John Untz, Senior Security Engineer, Exploit Development, and Richard Brown, Senior Managing Operator 2, all from the Threat Enablement and Analysis team here at Bishop Fox.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
Thanks for getting
nice to be here.
the whole crew together. Yeah,
I know,
Yeah.
I feel outnumbered. We'll see how this goes.
We could do
feel outnumbered.
all 8 of us on here. We can get all 8 of us on the team here.
Yeah, that's gonna be quite the show. Let's start with the leak from Cyber News. 100,000 stars in a day. Claw code based on leaked Claude code smashes GitHub record. Now, Anthropic accidentally exposed the source behind Claude code, and within hours, the leak had spread across GitHub. So some repos tried to mirror it, others rewrote it, and at least one version became the fastest growing repo in GitHub history. As one might imagine, that attention quickly became an attack opportunity. As people rushed to find unlocked or unrestricted versions of the tool, attackers began posting fake repos seeded with malware. So the story here isn't just a leak, it's how quickly legitimacy turns into distribution and how quickly that distribution becomes access. So what does it look like to weaponize attention before defenders even know what's going on?
That's a good question. It's not often I get to say this, but which leak are we talking about now for Anthropic? No. This is their second big one, right? It sucks because they're leading in a lot of areas and then saying we have flawless code. Oops, I pushed code to production, right? So it's very hard, but I will say that, not speaking for everyone, but when these kind of things happen and they release this source code and we were able to action on it very rapidly, you are going to see this influx of attackers using it for malicious purposes. Unfortunately, some of us are bound by ethics and can't use that code in our production environments, but it's nice to go review it and see what they were doing differently than we are. But yeah, the barrier to entry keeps continually go down each time when something like this happens. And this is, I think the first time was their agent leak, and this is now their actual code base.
Yeah, and I think like something to kind of key on here is I've tended to tell people, it's easier to trust something whenever other people have trusted it, right? That kind of inherited trust model, and that's like exactly a play here, right? We kind of replace the is this safe with is this popular. You mentioned like it's got a growing number of stars. That's a lot of people are gonna just look to that and say, well, somebody else, clearly somebody smarter than me, has said that this is a nice trusted repo, so I'm going to hit the I believe button and go along with them.
It's normally a good indicator. Yeah.
And it normally is. You're absolutely right. It's normally a good indicator, but obviously in this case it wasn't.
I mean, I'll be honest, quick honesty check around the room, no judgment, safe space. If something's blowing up in a repo, right? You've got repo 1 with like 40 stars, repo B with 600, and then repo C with, 100,000 and a fire emoji. Which one are you looking at?
Yeah. Right.
Probably going to be.
Yeah. And just go back to that trusted model. You're right. I mean, I didn't share it, but imagine if I did share it and then you share it and now we share it. Now the whole team thinks it's safe because the 3 of us mentioned it, and it just,
Absolutely. So put yourself in their position. If you are moving in the first few hours of that leak, what would you poison first and why?
It's tough because you definitely want to hit the skills, right? Skills are what people don't look at enough when they pull down these repos and realize, like, when I'm running Claude, it's doing something. I know that, but what's it doing? And not often do you look at what it's actually typing. You know, it's funny little blurbs it gives you, but then you see, hey, it keeps checking Claude code or keeps checking these skill things. And then that's where I would poison, is those skill attributes. And I would make sure that I have something in there that builds it upon itself, like maybe a line by line kind of, not a line by line kind of thing, but like maybe take some of here, take some of there, and build it into a threat model.
I don't know necessarily for like Cloud Code, because I don't think there is really anything special to removing or uninstalling it. But I would actually look for something like that. I would look for like, if there's something that triggers on like removal, that's immediately what I want to poison, because as soon as somebody thinks that they're safe, now you've just backdoored that safe feeling, right? You're ominously always there now, even though they think that they've removed you.
Uninstall and post installs for sure.
Yeah, man. Kind of similar to the Axios thing, right? Like, you don't want something massive, right? Looks obvious. So like targeting a dependency is pretty clever, like pretty smart, because who's looking at that, right? And in today's environment, like we've mentioned it twice now, the speed. Everybody's trying to be the first to do something, the first to finish something or publish it, which unfortunately, you know, goes directly against that trust model that we're trying to build. Is like, you know, trust but verify. A lot of times for speed, we don't verify. We're just like, hey, 40,000 plus people can't be wrong. And then,
oh, they can.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at what point would you say that distribution actually becomes the vulnerability?
I think we're seeing it now. I think a lot of the latest 3 to 4 big hacks have been supply chain attacks.
Yeah.
And when you see this growing trend as an attacker, I'm only going to hop on it, right? I'm not going to build my own path. I'll just join the path of least resistance. If everyone's doing it, I'll hop on other supply chain attacks, and I'll keep doing that and that and that. And then when this starts getting more traction to defenders and they're detecting it easier, then I'll pivot to something else. But until then, I'll keep on this bandwagon until it's not successful.
Sure.
Yeah, and like you said, it's all that inherited trust model, and I wonder, like looking backwards, I'd want to like go like trace like how far back can we go to see like watering hole attacks. Those have been a thing that you get taught about constantly. Like this is just another version of that in essence, right? That's the same concept here, just in a little bit of a different model.
Yeah, 100%. It's just kind of a different delivery mechanism if you really think about it, right? The idea is the same, the concept's the same, manipulating people's trust and their lack of awareness or understanding of truly what they're downloading or executing or running. But yeah, that's a great call out, and something that I was thinking earlier too, John, when I was doing research on all this stuff that's coming out is, you know, how is this any different than a core concept like watering hole attack? And that's a great point.
Yeah. I mean, it's dirty pool, but it works. This week from Bitdefender, we also have a fake Claude code leak on GitHub pushes Vidar malware. Am I saying that right? I've heard it said both ways. Vidar, that. In one case, attackers used fake GitHub repos tied to the Claude leak to push Vidar malware to people looking for the exposed code. In another, the Axios maintainer was reportedly targeted through a much more elaborate setup, a fake business process, a branded Slack workspace, and an AI deepfake meeting convincing enough to get the developer to install malware. They're different tactics, but it's all kind of the same idea. You're not exploiting a software flaw. You're exploiting normal developer behavior like curiosity, trust in repos, trust in people. So where in a developer workflow do you get execution with the least amount of scrutiny?
CI/CD pipelines, I think, are the biggest ones that you automate away from visual, right? The whole idea of that is it's automatic. And going back to the dependency attacks, if I'm using a GitHub action, for instance, that I'm just using the latest version of it, I don't hard code a version, I'm just automating that process, and then it happens to be popped. Now I'm ingesting whatever they're changing. Who knows what that is, what that's going to do. But yeah, I think that the human is always going to be the element that has the weakest spot, right? We're the ones that have feelings, and we're the ones that have a desire to make people happy. And in doing that, going to these meetings, I don't really want to buy the software, but this guy keeps emailing me. I'll sit through the meeting. It'll be fine. It'll be half an hour long. Oh, install this thing? Fine. Install it. Meeting's over. I leave. I don't uninstall the software. And here I am, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So what kind of signal would tell you that a quote unquote trusted repo isn't actually safe?
You would really have to have like a pretty mature process in the back end for like your CI/CD pipeline. Again, you have to have that awareness, right? And that kind of mature security implementation in place. Where I actually have an article about it out right now on our blog, but
Yeah.
it talks a little bit about those mature security practices that you should be implementing. If you are implementing a CI/CD pipeline, you're basically taking something that's supposed to automate and ease the pain of updating small packages and dependencies, immediately becomes, this super highway for pumping out malicious payloads and malware to like filled dependencies across your tech stack. So again, a little bit about that. There's a ton of stuff out there. CISA has some great write-ups about SBOMs, right? The software manuals that tell you exactly what is contained within your packages. There's dependency track software out there that will track that stuff for you, things like that. But really, it comes down to the big thing when I look at all of this is the users, right? And education. So the Axios thing specifically, it started with that fake job interview, right?
Yeah.
Social engineering is where it really started to gain his credentials. And then we inherit the maintainer's, trust, and we use his access to then manipulate the repo. I don't know a ton about the Vidar specifically, but a lot of it on the back end can be prevented or caught by internal security practices and user education, but also knowing that those need to be implemented too.
How does something like this, how do you persist without kind of giving yourself away after the install?
Well, the two things. The beauty of the Vidar, I'm not to say beauty of it, but it's an info stealer, right?
Yeah.
The goal is not necessarily command and control, is not to exploit the system to gain a root shell. It's literally just steal information and keep piping it out, right? It's easy to blend in with normal traffic when I do that. If I'm just taking passwords from your password Rolodex and sending them out to myself via some arbitrary command, you're not going to catch that kind of stuff. Unless, again, like Dylan was saying, you're doing deep network analysis. However, when I'm pulling down other binaries or pulling down C2 data, now you can kind of catch that. But where do I persist? I think John hit the nail on the head. On the uninstall, on the post-install software. I bed down in any of the writable files I can. I used to love when I would breach into a system and drop into a file share, right, where everyone can access it. I drop into the file share. Now, if I do have to either hit myself again to get out, I just have that file share and I'm out again. And luckily, I could call other people who hopefully have access to the same file share and make them click that Excel file or whatever I had bed down there.
Right, because again, like you said, the ultimately, right, the biggest vulnerability is what? It's humans, right? So it's the human nature.
People.
Always.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing.
Yeah.
It is.
Unfortunately.
We're number one.
Yeah. And yeah, I don't want to blame people all the time, but almost in every one of these attacks, it's oops, I pushed the prod button. Oops, I downloaded this file. Oops, I responded to this email. It's always that. It's never, well, okay, outside of the few times where Kiro has knocked down Amazon, most of this is human initiated things. And it's always going to be that way until we do get this autonomous world where things are just happening on their own, and then we can blame the machines for taking over, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And even in these instances where, there's been, recent takeovers where it's like the human didn't do anything inherently wrong or inherently out of the, security models, right? Do everything right. And there's still something that slipped by that just was, like doing right. Like MFA. That's my biggest one now is like, I have, taken so much time trying to get friends and family, just even if it's a text message, get some sort of MFA. And it's like, we're hitting that point now where even that is no longer inherently trustworthy. But like it's like you still have to do it because not doing it's even worse.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And the gnarly ones, I think for me, the exploits that give me the most creeps are the ones where like you get an email and you know it's malicious, but you click on it in order to report it as spam and it triggers the exploit. Or the ones where you have the admin portal where you report you report an issue and an admin clicks on it and that triggers a vulnerability. And it's like the admin was doing his job. He was going to go investigate this ticket and that triggered. And it's like those are the ones where I'm like, I always think twice before I click something, and not even a link, just an email itself, or an email comes in from an external user. And I'm like, I was going to delete this now and hope that it wasn't something important from Sean that he needed me to look at.
Explains it. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
It's not like, humans are intentionally being malicious by, installing these things, right? Like it's an accident, it's an overlooked dependency. Like I'm trying to upgrade this so that our application continues to work. I mean, the Axios thing was super popular, like HTTP JavaScript that runs front end, back end, developer workstations. And it's like, I need this to do my job. Like would you rather CI/CD pipeline pick it up, update, and then it gets caught in the process, or you lose tons of money because you're running outdated application that no longer talks to the front end appropriately, right?
Yes, that's a good point. Business downtime, like those are like real considerations that we can sit here and talk about technical controls all day, but like there's so many business decisions that have to that do take precedence a lot of times.
Yeah, we're kind of privileged to be in the back seat, so to speak, right? Like while businesses drive and we can talk about best practices, implementation, but at the end of the day, it's, where the rubber meets the road, and applying these technical concepts is really important to understand that there is a fine middle ground. And I think that's where the user education really needs to happen.
And that middle ground is moving. It's
it's
always
absolutely
always hard to hit.
Very fast.
Also from this week, let's see, we have from the Hacker News, Russian state-linked APT28 exploits Soho routers in global DNS hijacking campaign. This campaign is a reminder that sometimes you don't need to compromise the user's machine at all. Researchers say APT compromised home and small office routers, changing their DNS settings, and used that position in the traffic path to redirect people to attacker-controlled infrastructure. From there, they could capture passwords, OAuth tokens, and other credentials as users tried to access normal web and email services. So this is an initial access upstream scenario where if you control the path the traffic takes, you can turn the network itself into the theft mechanism. If you control a DNS like this, what's your fastest path to real access?
There's all sorts of ways. This is like my favorite thing because these
you activated John.
I did. I really did. I saw him just
over this one.
Yeah.
Because if you control, you're essentially controlling what they're navigating to, right? You control DNS. They think they're going to Google, right? How many times have you gone to Google something through a VPN and you get hit with that CAPTCHA? Well, not even the spins, right? You get hit with that immediate CAPTCHA of like, are you a robot? Like that, if I'm controlling DNS, everybody's getting that. You're getting a fake CAPTCHA. And now I'm going to send you to my little, malicious website through one of my little fake CAPTCHAs, right? Like that's to me, that's immediate real access.
Congratulations on getting the CAPTCHA right. We have you now.
Right, exactly.
Joke's on you. I fail those every time. So
somehow I'm
be exploited.
Not gonna lie, the number of times those CAPTCHAs, I've just been like, I do it twice, and I'm just like, whatever, turn the VPN off. I'm done.
I'm done.
Being bad at puzzles
it's always,
is your superpower,
it's always,
right?
It's a real human weakness is being bad at puzzles.
Dude, I can't remember if it was a Family Guy GIF or whatever. What it has the stoplight and like the corner of it is on the other picture and he has to click it and it's like failed. It's like,
every time.
Yeah.
So if you're sitting in that traffic path, what's the first thing you go after?
I would say it depends. It depends on what my overall goal is, right? If I'm trying to steal your retirement, because you have a default TP link set up just floating out there on the internet. So I'm going to assume you're not very tech savvy. Sorry. But I don't know. I'm probably redirecting you to some sort of malicious login or redirecting your traffic to a fake bank website or something, or maybe social security site. And then houseboat casino, man, retiring. Thank you.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if my goal is to exploit into your network, there's nothing stopping you from redirecting traffic to, like we saw with the Axios thing, a redirect to a C2 that just uses your host information, like a user agent string or something, throw a custom exploit that's built for your device specifically. Now I'm on your endpoint. And then I'm looking for pivots from there. So
Yeah. I think the other thing to remember is if I have your DNS, I do nothing. I just sit and listen and see what you're doing throughout the day. And I wait, and now I'm seeing, okay, this person does nothing important, ignore all their traffic, switch to someone more important, right? We look at the time from breach to notification. We're almost a year out, right? Where I think we're like 165 days or 163 days last time it was announced from when a company is breached to when they actually know they're breached, right? That's a lot of slow movement from the attackers because I don't want to rush and get caught. I'll sit and listen, see where you go, build those fake sites, get the credentials, right? And maybe I do it once. I spin it up for you, and I close it back down, and now you never know again because you look to the real one after that. But yeah, if it was me, I do nothing for probably about a week to just see what people are going to and doing and build my attack path from that.
Yeah, just actual passive recon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. One of the rare situations where you actually have a lot of time. You've got time to build your plan.
And I'll be honest, attacks like these, like when you think about like ARP cache poisoning and the older ones, I'm already in. I'm already inside there. The calls come from inside the house, right? So at that point, my job is not even to get access anymore. I have the access now. Like Dylan and John were saying, now it's pivoting. How deep can I get from this? But again, that's slow moving. Launch a command, wait a little bit. Launch a command, wait a little bit, and then just basically like fishing. I'm waiting for something to happen that I can jump around effectively.
Yeah, it's
and like you said, with like how depending, sorry Dylan, however like high up in the DNS chain you are, as far as like where you're able to listen from, like there's so many points of analysis to gather from that. Like the just the amount of data you're getting from nothing more than seeing what the DNS requests are. Like that alone is a gold mine.
Yeah.
Sure. All right. We also have this week from CyberScoop. Akira ransomware group can achieve initial access to data encryption in less than an hour. Halcyon says the Akira ransomware group has, in some cases, moved from initial access to data encryption in under an hour. They're not doing that with any novel techniques or anything. They're chaining together familiar ones. VPNs without MFA, exposed appliances, purchased access, and then moving very quickly when they're inside. And this is really not new. It's just the speed with which they're moving. The access path may be somewhat ordinary, but it's about the time here. What do attackers skip to speed this up, to move from access to impact that fast?
If I'm moving that fast, that means I have probably already done some sort of pre access recon. Like I already know going into this target, like what my second, third, fourth, fifth steps are. This to me reads like not just people that are like good at what they're doing, but that have practiced that craft so many times. It's like as soon as you land, boom, 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 you know exactly what your next steps are.
Yeah, it becomes about like having a playbook really, and just running the play. And you run this play so often and so good. Like I think what people forget, you don't have to get everybody.
Right.
Just a fair amount. Right?
That's a good point.
So where are there any areas where you consistently see zero friction in real environments?
I mean, if I'm being honest, right, I think when they imagine I'm hacking your system, they imagine your mouse is moving, right? Like you're like, oh, that's weird. That's happening there. I'm doing it all in the background, unbeknownst to you. I'm looking at when these files were accessed and going for the ones that are accessed most recently to try and lock them down fast to know that's what you're going to go to, right? So my first attack would be to find out what files are being accessed all the time, lock those down. Now they're gone. Now you're freaking out. You're not checking the other files. You don't care about them. You know you've been ransomed now, and I can take my time getting there. I will say, though, from breach to ransom in an hour, mind-blowing. Like, I don't even know how I would stop that from happening at that time. There's no pull to plug at that point.
Yeah, theoretically, what's that look like? If you had to do it in an hour, it seems crazy, but like, what kind of plan would you have?
I think I would have a predetermined method to get in. I'd have it check for these things to exist, and then run this next command to have it check for the like. It'd be almost like I would build this worm, and it would just fire it out there, and which is what they do a lot of times. And whenever it hit, it just went for and then encrypted it and got back to me. Right? Yeah. It would not be this is probably not a targeted thing. I'm not going to say it wasn't, but it's more opportunistic. I have this attack path I know always works. I'll fire it off, and no matter what, it always works. And whenever it hits something that's vulnerable to it, I got you. And when it doesn't, no harm, no foul. But I'm trying to imagine how they did this within an hour.
Yeah, well, like, you got to think there's so many steps that we do all the time that we automate away, right? Like recon steps. As soon as you land on a target, there's for a lot of us, there's scripts that we have already pre-populated that are not even specific to like one Soho, one type of endpoint, just like a family of endpoints. If I'm going to do recon on a Linux box of any flavor, there is a certain number of places I'm going to do my initial recon once I land, and I can just always do those same steps. And if that log file doesn't exist, whatever, and move to the next one. Like, those are those steps that are just so pre-planned. You know, Windows is the same way. You do, you know, the, what do you call it? For like OSCP, everybody has a mind map for taking over AD. It is such a honed in skill set now that it doesn't, I'm not going to say it doesn't have the same level of like critical thinking that it used to, but we've practiced that thing so many times that you don't need to really go back to the drawing board. It's already, the play's been written and the play's effective. And so why would you change that?
Yeah.
Why would you look differently than anybody else at that point?
Yeah, right. And I mean, when speed's on your side, you're not really worried about noise either, right? So you can afford to kick off a script that checks, like, let's say in this instance, I don't have something that fingerprints your OS. I don't know why I wouldn't, but that would be the first thing I'm checking. I'm checking the OS, the version, I'm checking any patches. And then I'm looking around to enumerate your system. Are you a shell user? Are you not? Do you have any antivirus or anything installed? And again, it's just very quick, like little commands that you can fire off. I think we forget we're talking milliseconds for a response.
Well,
and so if you've got a pre-cataloged, if this, then do this next, all you have to do is wait for it to run, and that's it.
And I think to your point, Sean, Dylan, you're right. Sorry, I mean to hop in here, but to your point, do I care about fingerprinting that stuff? Right? I'm literally going to say, go in here, drop a Windows binary. If it's not Windows, it fails. Who cares? On to the next one, right? So that's where I cut it out. I do no checks at all. I would just fire it off. I'd fire my script to start out. If script failed, right? I don't care about it anymore. But the box it does work on, I don't need to do enumeration. I don't even know where I'm at in the stack. I don't even know where I'm at in your network. I start encrypting and worming my way through. And the hope is I hit something super critical right away. But I think that's the first place I would start is I would dump those checks. And I would just assume best case scenario in this code. And when I fire it off, if it hit, it hit.
Just a brick through the window attack.
Yeah, man. We were just talking about that earlier. Yeah, good.
We were, yeah. Why look under the mat if I've got my tool?
All right, so let's get to kind of the big story here. Project Glasswing. So this is Anthropic's announcement about Project Glasswing around a model it says can find, and in some cases exploit, serious software vulnerabilities at a level that rivals top human researchers. The company says the model has already identified thousands of high-severity issues, including flaws in major operating systems and browsers, And the broader point here is kind of hard to overstate, that the time between finding a weakness and turning it into something usable is, of course, as we talk about all the time, shrinking exponentially. So this story is really kind of about speed moving upstream before an attacker ever gets access. If this bottleneck isn't going to be human expertise anymore, then what changes first? Like disclosure, patching, triage, something else?
Well, like, because
Yeah.
obviously this is like this topic alone is like pretty important to me in the work I do. So of those three, like, I'm not really sure which one has to happen first. I can tell you right now, patching is already too slow. Even
Yeah.
like before AI entered the game, patching at like a business standpoint level was already slow. Sometimes you have to keep boxes, downgraded from the newest security patch for whatever reason. As a practice at all, that just needs to stop happening. We just had over the weekend, right? We had the Florida Client EMS hotfix that dropped, which that was already such a inconvenient time for a lot of businesses, I'm sure, to have to apply a hotfix, let alone like it's not even like a regular security update. Like this was a manual hands-on, or at least a more manual hands-on process to apply this hotfix. Now you're talking about those kinds of actions having to happen at like breakneck pace. I'm legitimately worried for how businesses are going to be able to respond to like one-off, two-offs, situations, to now having that same type of patching cadence happen on daily to weekly.
Yeah. I think this also, I'm spoiled, right? I have a great team of people under me, smarter than I know. John and Dylan are my Claude, right? I asked them, go find me exploit, please. No, but no, I think it bodes well for us, because I feel like now it gives us that challenge that we need to be faster at our jobs and we need to use AI more in it. But I will say, we have to remember, and we were having this discussion earlier today in our stand-up, and I'm going to steal Ronan's thought for this one, but we have a limited number of tokens when we use our Claude. If I own Claude, I don't have a limit on my tokens. So
Sure.
I can have my Claude run forever and never have to shrink my context or have to sleep or wait 5 hours for my tokens reset, right? So I think when you look at it that way, it's going to be great for the larger corporations who can afford these endless amount of tokens to review their code, but it's still going to be the middle to lower sized companies that can't afford that much. And there's still going to be that bottleneck of, even at the 200 Pro plan, you're going to have that window with larger code bases. And especially when you get deep functions, something that I know John loves digging into, right? Is when you have those deep function calls, you forget what this one was, but Claude does too. Claude forgot what that was because the context shrunk, and now it has only half the code base. But again, so something to consider is, I think larger corporations can take advantage of these larger token pools, but smaller ones still can't, and they're still going to rely on people like us doing those investigations into that data.
Yeah. So you think this is ultimately going to meaningfully help defenders get ahead? Like, at least in those best case scenarios, like large corporations, organizations, like you were talking about.
100%.
Yeah.
I do envision a world, especially with the agile development pipeline, where you have this autonomous user just watching for pull requests, for lack of a better term, for commits, and just watching for them. And then every time it checks them. We have Code Rabbit that does it now, that just looks for what the code's doing, right? But imagine that in a security sense, where it just checks for any vulnerabilities. Hey, man, this function call is pretty open. This variable has no container around it. You got to fix that. Your buffer is not sized appropriately for that. And it's just telling you these things. Okay, cool. Update it, fix it, or it does it for you, right? It adds a bounds. It adds a string type, like just things that we haven't even thought about using it for yet that are to come.
Yeah, like with earlier you were talking about like CI/CD being like an easy weakness point on like the developer side. Like that's like a great example of something that could be used as a mitigating factor there, right? If you've got something like this plugged into that developer loop, as anything as code gets pushed into that CI/CD pipeline, and it's watching out for a lot of that stuff. We already have some tools that do something of that nature, but I think to this degree, I think it's going to help out a lot.
Yeah, I'd agree. I also think it's very interesting too, when you look at some of the vulnerabilities and exploits that are coming out of AI right now. When you look at like HackerOne shutting down bug bounty programs for like open source software because they're receiving like generic, unverifiable reports from AI.
Yeah.
But
Is
then you
Vuln?
look, yeah, is
Yeah.
Vuln? Uh, but then you look at other things where you've got an article about, FreeBSD being hacked by AI, and part of you has to wonder if a human sat there and actually looked at it because we were incentivizing them to look at it more, would they have caught it?
Right.
And it's kind of like security has always been playing catch up, right?
Yeah.
We create new toys that we cannot fathom or wrap our heads around completely, create policy to control, mitigate for the average user fast enough. So we're constantly taking tech experts and throwing them at the latest and greatest, the neatest, the newest. And it's like, I wonder how much dark, unexplored space we leave behind, right? Like, you know,
Sure.
we know more about space than the ocean, and the ocean's right here. And so
Yeah.
That's
it's,
deep.
tech is, yeah, yeah, it's
That's
very
deep.
deep.
Whoa.
Some would say crushing.
All right. Well, let's wrap up here. We've got one more story from Tech Radar. What if the AI agent you just deployed was secretly working against you? Vertex AI double agent flaw exposes customer data and Google's internal code. Researchers found that AI agents running in Google's cloud Vertex AI platform can be turned into what they call a double agent. These agents are given permission by default so they can do useful work, but those permissions are often broader than they need to be. If an attacker can access or manipulate one of these agents, they can extract its credentials and use them to move through the cloud environment, reading data, accessing storage, pulling internal code from systems that were supposed to be isolated. So instead of breaking into a system directly, they are just inheriting trust from something that's already allowed to be there. So if identity can be simulated, what signals are actually left to trust, if any?
Well, this is an old problem, right? We have had insider threats. That is a
Yeah.
timeless problem,
Yep.
right? Now we're just saying it's an AI agent that's the insider threat, but that's no different than if it was somebody that was hired from a rival company, a rival nation state, like pick your poison, right? It's still
Sure.
the same fundamental problem of why are you giving the new guy access that he doesn't need? Like, again, the zero trust model, right? Why would you take something that is new to you, right, new to your environment, and take on that risk of giving it full free reign on the code base? You would never do that. Like, I can't think of anybody in our organization that would take on, like, when I was a new hire, right? Nobody gave me the key to the kingdom and said, don't break anything, right?
Yeah.
Um, that's
I'm
not a
still
smart
waiting
play,
on mine. I've been here a
Yeah.
couple of years. I don't have it.
Yeah.
I assume
Yeah.
it's coming.
right?
No, that's a very good point. Feel like, yeah, they're able to steal API keys, like he's saying, from a individual user, right? The AI agent being the user. Yeah,
Yeah.
there has to be some kind of check-in, check-out process that they have to follow. I know it sounds crazy to make a robot, sorry, not robot. Sorry, if you're listening, AI agents,
Oh, and
autonomous
they are.
worker. Have them do a checkout process to get a secure credential, but maybe that's where we're
Yeah.
at now.
Yeah. I mean, if it works for humans,
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, we have human role-based access controls and mechanisms. So why would you take this, again, massive code repository with logic-based functionality and just
Mhm.
untethered, here you go, like, make it work, do stuff, man. Like, doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's so often we're looking at all the ways that AI and humans are similar in their roles, the ways they can break, and I think trust is no different. It looks like that's that has to be thought of that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're
The
just kind of changing what it looks like. I mean, when you look at endpoints and you look at servers, all the server's doing is offering up the services it's supposed to. It's on you
Mhm.
to make sure that the clients themselves are supposed to have access to those services, right? It's no different if you get onto a host and you manipulate a specific service that's running there. Um, Again, it all comes down to what you should be able to access and should you be able to access that.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, if there's a common thread across all of this, it is that access isn't created from scratch, it is inherited. I feel like I have to say that every week because it continues to be true.
Yeah. And it,
Dylan,
it
Richard,
yeah.
John, I appreciate all of you helping us make sense of all of this. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thanks for having
thanks.
us.
Yeah. If you found this useful, go ahead and share it with someone in your organization. We will be back next week. Until then, stay safe.